Hey Matt, lately we've been getting a lot of clients asking us about why we move slow.
So let's take it to the bike. So, why we move slow is a lot for safety reasons, but it gives you an effective workout. So, force equals mass times acceleration, as Morgan demonstrated on the board back here. And so, if you increase that acceleration throughout your range of motion, that force is going to increase exponentially. So, if you have, let's say, 100 pounds and you're moving it up in an acceleration of 0, so it's moving very slowly without any momentum or acceleration in there that's increasing, it's going to stay that 100 pounds the entire time. But if you add that acceleration or momentum at the bottom, any point during the range of motion, it's going to increase by that acceleration. So let's say 100 pounds can turn into about 300 pounds or more. At the bottom is where it's going to come down on that too. But then the top would be virtually 0 pounds. You're not doing anything. So it's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what happens is we know that also to change direction, so in weightlifting, we're lifting and lowering weights usually to some degree. Usually you have to lift the weights to then set them back down. But to have that change in direction, you need a change in force. And so we know by Newton's second law, so my science nerd is showing here, that in order to stop one force, you need an opposing equal force to stop that object. And that opposite force is going to come from your body. So in Matt's example, if you create 300 pounds of force in a weightlifting exercise with your acceleration, your body is going to take on 300 pounds of force to stop that movement and then change the direction and keep going. So over time, if you continually use acceleration, the wear and tear is going to build up pretty quickly on your body because you have to stop it. And that force goes directly into the joint, so aka your bones, tendons, and muscles. And that's where the injury rate during weightlifting really increases.
Yeah, so if you're lifting 100 pounds for like 8 to 12 reps like we do here, that force getting up to 300 pounds is even close to your 1 rep max. So your body can't actually take that load. That's where the injury comes into play. And so the exact same thing of like just moving so slow is going to be so much more effective for your body, but then also so much safer to do so time and time and again. And those overuse injuries that people talk about during weightlifting or any type of other exercise is because of those like super big impacts of their joints from an external force that is heavier than they can take at that time.
Right. And so kind of two things about that. One is that external force, if we keep that close to 0 and keep the force when we're weightlifting with no acceleration, that's actually what is keeping the tension on your muscle if you're using proper form, of course. And we'll talk about that in other videos. But you're keeping that tension on the muscle to then make it more resilient and stronger for whether you're training for daily life or if you're an athlete and someone who would compete. Because you might say, well, wait, if external force is bad, then why do we have, anywhere from runners, high jumpers, and even things in like CrossFit and Olympic lifting, those things can become really dangerous. And yes, that is true. But if you practice those things with good technique and in moderation, while also strength training really strategically, your risk of injury comes down. But anytime you add acceleration in, your rate of injury just goes up. And going into those choices, knowing that is, I think, just a good thing for the general population to know.
Yeah, and if we took everybody next week without any plan or preparation and say, hey, I want you to jump as high as you possibly can for me using momentum, like it's going to be more of a safety factor in that point. Whereas somebody's trying to get higher at jumping, they're going to practice that. They're going to be used to that. They're going to be stronger in that specific sport or skill.
Yeah.
And that's why it's totally different when you just apply that one random time during your workout
Yeah.
than over and over again.
Yeah. So it's balancing in life and in sports, making sure that you have a good balance in your training program to increase, strength, muscular strength, and then practicing activities with good form that use external force, like we mentioned, the jumping or anything impact, even team sports where you're throwing a ball. All of those things require force, but we can make our bodies more resilient to it. And that's obviously the goal.
Yeah.
But it's also, when you're playing a sport, you take on the risk of injury, and that injury rate goes up. And a lot of people make the choice to, that's a sacrifice you're willing to make if you are dedicated
Nothing
to the
wrong
sport.
with that. That is totally up
Totally
to you.
up to you. But also, we work with a lot of people who are working out to increase their quality of life and lengthen their, hopefully life expectancy. They're not competing, or really competitively competing in sports. We get a lot of runners, pickleballers, all those things. We're not saying you shouldn't do that, but just knowing that we're trying to help educate you on making choices to make you have the best quality of life possible.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about this topic and have any questions, you can tell us via the messenger here or in the comments, and or your next session, or sign up for your free discovery session with us.
Yeah.
And we'll talk next time on the next video.
Stay tuned. See you next time.